I know there are other things that Canada could do that other countries wouldn't be able to do just as well. Whether it's our expertise around humanitarian aid and around refugee status. There's a lot of people, refugees, displaced peoples fleeing violence who are facing a very, very cold winter in the mountains. If something Canada has expertise on is how to face a winter in the mountains with the right kind of equipment.
Oh my God! Justin Trudeau has a message for Kurds and other minorities being slaughtered by Islamic State terrorists. Maybe we'll drop some Parkas on you instead of bombs to defeat the Islamic State. We have expertise about how to keep warm, don't you know? That'll save you. Trudeau was speaking in Hinton, Alberta yesterday. The Liberal leader said countries with more airplanes should bomb the Islamic State, not us. Instead, Canada should focus on humanitarian support. Sun News contributor John Robson joins us with more from Ottawa. John, am I overdoing it when I say this is I feel like I'm listening to a high school senior say, well, we know a lot about how to stay warm and we're not warmongery like the Americans, so, we can give them advice on how to stay warm. That is not a grown-up solution to the slaughter of innocents. Am I overreacting, or is this another Trudeau eruption, another blunder and gaffe?
I think you're underreacting, actually, because it is what you say, but it's worse than that because of that thing about surviving in winter conditions with the right kind of equipment. Obviously, what our airplanes should be doing at this point is dropping gift certificates to the Mountain Equipment Co-op, because ideally one has the latest lightweight tent and also a suitable down parka and polypropylene gloves and one of those compact little stoves. This is the rich kid. He doesn't know what a refugee is. I mean, the point is preposterous to begin with. It's as though you saw a man sexually assaulting a woman and said we must provide her with trauma counseling when he's done, as opposed to saying somebody, jumping in and stopping it. Yeah. At the moment, the problem isn't that the refugees do not have the right kind of equipment, that kind of high-end gearhead stuff, including those really cool hiking boots. The problem is that somebody is driving them from their homes. Yeah. And the idea is not, when they've been driven from the homes, to make them comfortable in a mountain in which they have fled for their very life. Yeah. The point is to stop the person from driving them out of their home. But I think that it was that touch about the right kind of equipment. One imagines the sorts of vacations that he and his friends take in the mountains, a ski trip perhaps, with the latest laminate composite materials.
Yeah. That's how he proves he's smart. These people are fleeing
with nothing.
He doesn't know anything about strategy. He doesn't know anything about morality. He doesn't know anything about stopping a political and humanitarian crisis, but he knows the right way to stay warm, and he will give advice to those people who are not as sophisticated about him about how to stay warm. By the way, let me flash on the screen here. I checked the climate in Raqqa. That's the Islamic State's capital. Just put that on the screen for a second. It doesn't get particularly cold. The coldest temperature recorded in history there is -7. Typically, the average low is 2 degrees. It's a desert. The average high in the summer is 39. By the way, that's not the problem, but let me show you how he disparaged what we're actually doing. Take a look at this clip, John.
Well, I think there are countries with far more aircraft available to do that than Canada, and they should continue.
So our CF-18s, our Auroras, are refueling planes. They shouldn't do that. Countries with more planes should do that so ours can stay parked in Canada and not shoot terrorists. Does that even make sense? I mean, of course there's countries with more planes than ours. Does that mean we should not use ours and we shouldn't use them to stop terrorists? What's he even driving at there, John?
Unfortunately, this is a question that nobody could answer, least of all him, because if the argument is bombing is inappropriate, then fine, we shouldn't be doing it. But the argument seems to be that bombing is appropriate, but we shouldn't do it, and somebody else. And remember that sort of countries with far more planes. Obviously, he has no idea what these countries are. He hasn't got the slightest idea how big the British, French Air Force is, or the Italian Air Force, or anything like that. He also doesn't seem to know how big our Air Force is. I mean, we have far too few planes, of course, but we do have dozens of planes, and we have only sent 6. So what is it that he thinks these planes ought to be doing that is so urgent that they shouldn't be doing this? Again, it's as though he sees a man assaulting a woman in the street and says, I do not feel that I should intervene though I might lend her my parka afterward. But somebody should intervene. Jay, well, who do you think should intervene? I don't know, some big guy, you know, like one of them there. I mean, perhaps he simply doesn't want to say, well, the United States has a lot of planes. I presume he doesn't want Russia getting involved, or China. They've got a bunch of planes. I don't know, maybe he thinks Pakistan should be doing it. But what happened is he took this knee-jerk pacifist, you know, scholarships, not battleships view of the matter, and now he's committed to the notion that we shouldn't be bombing, but he has no explanation of why we shouldn't be bombing. He thinks somebody should be bombing, but he has no explanation of who should do it or why. And his position just gets worse and worse. It's like he's standing on a little hillock of sand and the water is eroding it all around him. What he needs to do is climb down and say, you know what, sorry, cheap lunch for Quebec votes, mea culpa, of course we should be involved. But he can't do that. And so, but now he's clutching at straws. And then he does this qu'il mange les brioches trick about, well, with the right equipment, they can survive in warm weather. You know, the starting point for that right equipment is food. They've got to have food. But if you give them a bunch of food, the Islamic State will come and steal it from them and probably rape the women along the way. And what is it that Justin Trudeau intends to give them once that is done? Leggings? He's so out of his depth on national security issues that somebody needs to tell him, and he's got to listen and get a real, you know, read some books, get a briefing, learn some history, the stuff his father missed about, yes, there really were U-boats in the St. Lawrence during the Second World War, that kind of thing, and come back with something other than goofy rich kid. You know, Marie Antoinette never did say, let them eat cake or qu'il mange les brioches, but he just said it, essentially, with that notion about with the right equipment.
Yeah. Let them have warm parkas. They're being raped and murdered. We'll send some warm parkas if anyone survives. John Robson, thanks for joining us today. More Source still ahead.